My name is Carol. I'm 78 years old, and sometimes I feel like I raised my children, but the internet is raising my grandchildren. That sentence sounds bitter when people say it quickly. I don't mean it bitterly. I mean it quietly, observantly. When I was raising my kids, the house felt loud in a physical way. Doors closing, dishes clinking, arguments echoing down the hallway. Now when I visit my grandchildren, the house is quiet, too quiet. Everyone is there, sitting together. But their faces are lit by separate screens. I don't blame them. I don't even fully blame their parents. The world shifted in a way none of us were trained for. When my children were young, influence came from a handful of places: teachers, neighbors, church, television, maybe a few hours a day, and us, mostly us. If they had a question, they asked me. If they were confused, they came to the kitchen table. If they were bored, they went outside. Now, when my granddaughter has a question, she doesn't look up, she looks down. The answer arrives instantly. So does the opinion, so does the comparison, so does the pressure. I raised my children slowly, not perfectly, but slowly. I knew their friends, I knew their teachers. I knew when they were lying because I could hear it in their breathing. I watched their moods change in real time. Now, influence moves through a wire I cannot see. I remember the first time I realized the internet was shaping them more than their parents. My grandson was 11. He came to dinner already upset about something that had happened online. No one in the room knew what it was. The argument wasn't here. It was somewhere else, invisible. But the emotion was real. I thought about how, when my children were upset, the source was usually in the room. A sibling, a friend from school, something I could observe. Now the source lives in their pockets. I'm not naive. I know the internet offers knowledge, connection, opportunity, but it also offers something children are not built to carry: constant exposure. When I was young, comparison was local. You compared yourself to the girl down the street, the boy in your class. Now my granddaughter compares herself to millions. Faces filtered, lives curated, success compressed into highlight reels. At 13, I worried about whether my dress fit properly at a dance. She worries about how her entire life appears. That's a heavier burden. I see it in her shoulders sometimes. My daughter tells me I'm being dramatic. She says every generation worries about the next. Maybe she's right, but there's something different about influence that never sleeps. When I raised my children, there was a natural boundary. The day ended, television signed off, the house went dark, silence protected them. Now the world follows them into bed. Notifications hum at midnight. Opinions arrive before breakfast. There is no closing time. I raised my kids with stories. Stories at dinner, stories in the car, stories passed down from my own parents. Now stories come from strangers who speak with confidence, who look polished, who sound certain. And certainty is seductive when you're young. I worry not because the internet teaches them things. I worry because it teaches them before they've formed their own thoughts. At 14, I was allowed to be awkward in peace. I was allowed to grow without commentary from the world. My granddaughter grows under observation. She deletes photos if they don't receive enough approval. Approval measured in numbers. We never had numbers attached to our worth. Now children do. I raised my children to look people in the eye. Now I watch my grandson struggle to hold eye contact for more than a few seconds. He is brilliant, kind, funny. But his attention is fragmented. It isn't his fault. He was handed a world that demands constant reaction. When my children were bored, boredom pushed them toward creativity. Now boredom lasts 3 seconds before it's filled. I see what that does. Patience thins. Silence becomes uncomfortable. And yet, I don't want to be the grandmother who complains about modern life, because there is beauty too. My grandchildren can learn anything instantly. They know more about the world at 12 than I did at 25. They are connected across continents, but knowledge without guidance is heavy. I raised my children inside walls I could see. Now my grandchildren are shaped by forces I cannot. I don't blame the internet entirely. I sometimes blame exhaustion. Parents are tired. Work follows them home now. Screens babysit when energy runs out. I understand that. I was tired too. But when I was tired, there was no digital substitute. We talked even if we were exhausted. We argued face to face. We learned how to read tone, body language, pauses. My grandchildren read emojis. I worry about what happens when disagreement becomes digital, when you can block someone instead of working through discomfort. I worry about depth. Depth takes time without interruption. The internet interrupts everything. When I say I raised my kids, now the internet raises them, I don't mean parents have disappeared. I mean influence has multiplied. And children don't always know how to filter it, neither do adults. I see my own daughter scrolling late at night, comparing her parenting to strangers who seem flawless. We never had that mirror. We made mistakes in privacy. Now mistakes are documented, judged, replayed. I'm not against progress, but I am protective of childhood. Childhood needs slowness. Needs room to be ordinary. I don't know how this story ends. I only know what I see from my chair in the corner of the living room. 3 grandchildren on one couch, together, alone. There's more I want to say about this, more I've learned watching quietly. As I've grown older, I've tried not to turn my worry into criticism. That's a delicate line. It's easy for someone my age to shake her head and say, "It wasn't like this in my day." Of course it wasn't, but that doesn't mean my day was perfect. We had our blind spots too. The difference is speed. Everything now moves faster than reflection. When I raised my children, if one of them said something cruel to a friend, the damage was contained. It might travel through a small circle. It might sting for a week. Now one careless comment can travel further than the child understands. Embarrassment used to fade. Now it can be archived. That permanence changes how children grow. I've watched my granddaughter rehearse how she'll say something online, deleting and rewriting before she posts. She is 13. At 13, I was trying on lipstick in secret and worrying whether anyone would notice. She is managing an audience. an audience at an age when she should be allowed to be unpolished. When my children were young, they came home from school and left most of it behind at the door. Now school follows them. Group chats buzz during dinner. Opinions multiply in real time. There's no clean break, no time to digest. I've noticed something else too. When I tell my grandchildren stories, they listen, but their attention flickers. A notification interrupts. A vibration on the table pulls their eyes away. I don't blame them. The device is built to win. But I wonder what it does to memory. When my children listened to stories, there was nothing else competing. The story had to fill the room. Now the room is crowded with invisible voices. And yet, I don't want to romanticize the past too much. There were things we didn't talk about openly, emotions we buried, subjects we avoided. The internet, for all its chaos, gives young people language. They talk about feelings more freely. They find communities when they feel different. That matters. But I worry about the scale. When every emotion is shared instantly, it doesn't have time to settle into understanding. Everything becomes urgent. Outrage spreads quickly. So does fear. Children are not meant to carry the weight of global anxiety every day. When I was young, I knew about the world's problems, but they arrived slowly through newspapers, through adult conversations overheard. Now the world arrives in full color, unfiltered. I see it in my grandson's eyes when he talks about things far beyond his control. Climate, politics, conflict. He is 14. 14-year-olds should argue about music, not global collapse. There's something heavy about constant exposure. I also notice how the internet shapes identity. My granddaughter experiments with who she is through a lens. Photos, posts, profiles. Identity becomes performance. When I was young, you could try on versions of yourself quietly. If it didn't fit, it faded. Now experiments leave digital footprints. I don't envy them, and yet I see resilience too. They are quicker to call out injustice, quicker to question old assumptions. They challenge things I never had the courage to question at their age. So I sit with both truths. The internet raises them in ways I cannot control, but I can still influence something, presence. When I visit, I don't compete with their screens. I don't scold. I ask questions, real ones. What made you laugh today? What confused you? Who disappointed you? Sometimes they answer in one word. Sometimes they put the phone down. I've learned that influence now is quieter. You cannot overpower the internet. You can outlast it in patience. I also see that parents today are navigating something we never had to face. When I raised my children, I could control what entered our home. Now the door's always open. I don't judge my daughter. She's trying. She sets limits. She negotiates. She worries. Parenting has always been heavy. Now it's relentless. There's no off switch. I've come to understand that saying the internet raises them is not entirely true. It shapes them. But shaping is not the same as raising. Raising still happens in kitchens, in car rides, in late night talks, after something online hurt their feelings. The internet may plant ideas, but parents still water them or don't. What I fear most is not the content. It's the erosion of attention. Love requires attention, and attention is the currency being drained. When I hold my granddaughter's hand and she's fully there, no phone, no interruption, I feel it. She is still a child, still reachable, still forming. That gives me hope. Because beneath the noise, children are still children. They still want to be understood. They still want safety. They still need someone older to sit with them without multitasking. Maybe that's my role now, not to compete with the internet, not to criticize it, but to offer something it cannot: slowness, unfiltered eye contact, stories that don't disappear. I raised my children in a different world. The internet raises my grandchildren in this one, but love still raises them too. And love, when it is steady, patient, and present, has survived every invention so far. I'm 78. I've seen radios become televisions. Televisions become computers. Computers become phones that fit in a pocket. The tools change. Children don't. They still need anchors. Maybe the best thing I can do now is be one. Not louder than the internet, just steadier. And sometimes when the phones are set aside and the house grows quiet in the right way, I see it. They are still listening, and that's enough to keep me hopeful. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.